Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you again for joining us in our space and for 99 names of Allah in this session. And for if you're being here in this space with us, or if you're watching this live, or if you're watching this in the future, I hope that this has been a blessed session. This has been a blessed series for you. And inshallah, we continue to benefit from it. But just as always, we continue with our with three more names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala today as we hope to get through all the 99 names for this Ramadan. But we've hit the halfway mark of Ramadan, and names of these time has been flying by. So we'll be going through the names of Al-Raqeeb, Al-Mujeeb, and Al-Waasi today. And the names that we covered yesterday were Al-Hasib, Al-Jalil, and Al-Karim. And we recalled that Al-Hasib was the one who calculates things precisely, who demands account, and like that accountant, the one who holds us accountable, but the one who is the most accountable. And Al-Jalil, the glorious, the majestic, the magnificent, the honorable. And Al-Karim, the generous, the magnanimous, the noble-minded, the charitable. And how all these names enhance in us a sense of mindfulness, a sense of awareness, and then awareness of what Allah provides to us, but also what we are able to then do, what we are able to then be in the world. And so these names give us a heightened sense of being in this world so that we can then elevate our service, elevate ourselves in terms of uplifting the world around us, as well as our internal selves. So, Bismillah, we're going to go ahead and begin with the Asma al-Husna before we go then into the three names for today: Al-Raqeeb, the watchful, the vigilant; Al-Mujeeb, the one who hears, the one who replies; and Al-Wasi, the all-embracing, the endless, the all-reaching. So Bismillah, let us go ahead and let us start with the 99 names of Allah, the Asma al-Husna. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll go from there. Right. And as always, just, as you collect yourself in the space, let's just get in that zone, wherever it may be, just center ourselves, and we just let these 99 names fill our space and fill our ears, fill our senses. And inshallah, they begin to internalize, especially as we've gone through them halfway through now. We're 15 days in. So Bismillah, let us begin. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر الخالق البارئ المصور الغفار القهار الوهاب الرازق الفتاح العليم القابض الباسط الخافض الرافع المعز المذل السميع البصير الحكم العدل اللطيف الخبير الحليم العظيم الغفور الشكور العلي الكبير الحفيظ المقيت الحسيب الجليل الكريم الرقيب المجيب الواصي الحكيم الودود المجيد الباعث الشهيد الحق الوكيل القوي المتين الولي الحميد المحصي المبدي المعيد المحيي المميت الحي القيوم الواجد الماجد الواحد الأحد الصمد القادر المقتدر المقدم المؤخر الأول الآخر الظاهر الباطن الوالي المتعالي البر التواب المنتقم العفو الرؤوف المالك الملك ذو الجلال والإكرام المقسط الجامع الغني المغني المانع الضار النافع النور الهادي البديع الباقي الوارث الرشيد الصبور. So, with these names, we begin our session for today. And as mentioned, our names that we cover today are Al-Raqeeb, Al-Mujeeb, and Al-Wasi. Al-Raqib is very similar in name to Al-Muhaymin. Its name is translated as the watchful, the vigilant, the meticulous observer, and the protector. And it has some metaphors associated with it that we've covered with other names. So you get to see the overlap that these names have, not just with one another, but also in terms of maybe the effect that they have upon us and how we internalize them. The qualities of Ar-Raqib contain that divine vigilance that not just is observing you, but it's one that grants security and protection to us and the rest of creation. In this attribute, Allah watches over the states, watches over the deeds, watches over the words of human beings and of creation. Everything that's visible, everything that is hidden, everything that's conscious or unconsciously done. And its root meanings come from this aspect of observation, of regarding something or watching something with attentiveness and supervising, controlling, waiting, also being patient, and guarding to keep an eye out for something. And Ar-Raqib observes that creation in the same way that we mentioned how a mother observes a child or how a father observes a child without judgment, with that, like an infant child, a little small child, without judgment, but noticing like the small little things that might be going on and being there to help pick that child up when they may fall down, or if they're doing something wrong, to help gently correct them. And it's this gentle lovingness, this gentle observation that we see, not the type of observation we may associate like a taskmaster or anything like that. When we often relate to Allah, we often just loosely just use the connotation of just we're Allah's slaves, and sometimes that has painful connotations for people. And when we see that type of relationship is not the one that we may understand ourselves to be in the sense of a taskmaster and a slave, or a master and a slave, but more akin to a loving parent, a loving, just all encompassing, just aura envelops us in this divine love. And Ar-Raqib, it notices us just like that, and not from a lens of harm or a lens of why aren't you doing enough, why aren't you doing this, but a lens of this is, you've been created in this, and to love in this creation and to worship in this creation. And this also fosters then a sense of introspection. We mentioned this yesterday as well, that it fosters a sense of introspection, because if we see that Allah is watching us, not just watching us, but watching us with a divine love, watching us with a divine lens of care, that we then want to bring in some introspection as well. We want to do that as well to ourselves, and we should be watchful of ourselves. But it's not from a place of humiliation or a place of degradation for ourselves, but a place of being like, we can be better. It's not anything to, and this observation has nothing to do with a type of self-pity or megalomania or just mere exaggerated opinion, like in terms of Allah's like, I'm just gonna watch everything and do all this because of I'm all this. But it's to help us. It's any attribute that Allah has the inward facing, but it has the outward facing, and it also has the significance that Allah does to the world, but also what we can do and what is for us. So through this name, we access Allah, we become closer to Allah, but we also become closer to ourselves. And all the various faces that our ego takes on help, like they basically help our hearts kind of find a cushion, find a type of barrier. And so we want to help remove this barrier. We want to help take away these different layers that come about. But when our ego develops, when our ego starts to boast up, we create that separation with Allah. And we've talked about this with so many of the other names. But this name really helps us then look back through peel back all the egos that we have, peel back all those layers that we have that prevent us not only from connecting to ourselves, but to Allah. And the way we see ourselves then, the way we really see ourselves beyond the egos, what we see ourselves at heart influences how we see Allah, and vice versa. We talked about this, that the one who knows themselves knows Allah, and the flip as well, that the one who knows Allah knows themselves. And if we've built an identity or built all these egos on top of who we really are, we sometimes project that onto Allah. If we're doing bad in the world, if we've been done wrong to, and we just keep piling this up, we will have those associations with our creator. And so we want to lift that up, that the creator, the true essence, is after we've polished our hearts. We look at it from a clean lens. We look at it from a clear sense of glasses, and clear, just pair of eyes, just to see the creator there. And so when we carry this quality, we are more aware of the divine than we really are of ourselves. This awareness expresses itself in our thoughts, our words, our deeds, and it lets a longing grow for not just improvement of ourselves, but also to Allah. We start to see that how mindful we are of our things, how watchful we are of our own selves, and it makes us more aware of the words that come out of our mouth or the actions that we commit, because we not only are we cognizant of what Allah is observing of us, but also how others might observe us, in the sense that how we may be helping the creation around us. And so this name really increases that vigilance towards ourselves. It intensifies awareness, but most importantly, it intensifies a modesty of the heart. It intensifies a polishing of that ego and a reducing of that ego. So we hope with this name we honor Allah. We honor Allah in our own thoughts, in ourselves, and in everything that we do, as if we could see Allah. And this is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that honor Allah in yourself and in everything as if you could see Allah. Because even if you can't, Allah can truly see you. And so the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was lifting up this aspect of giving that honor to Allah, because you have so many benefits you can take from, as if Allah was observing you, as if Allah was there just watching you, because then you would be more aware to how you treat others, how you treat yourselves. And so we take this name to help us be more vigilant and mindful of our actions, our deeds, and our thoughts in this world. And Al-Mujeeb is the one who hears, but the one who replies, the one who reciprocates, the receptive, the responder. It means the one who answers the prayers and fulfills them, because when you turn to Al-Mujeeb, it means that you believe in Allah, and it means that you hope to be heard. So it connects that sincere conviction, that sincere belief you have, and it connects it with a response. It connects it with a hearing, and it connects it with a creator that cares for the creation and that reaches back out to the creation. And the root of this al-Mujeeb comes from with the meanings of answering, replying, to hear, to fulfill, but also to travel, to wander, to seek. And Al-Ghazali explains how Al-Mujeeb is the one who hurries to hear the requests of the creation, this concept of traveling and to wander, but the requests of the creation coming out left and right, and Al-Mujeeb racing to answer these, or to address each of these. And so we look at Al-Mujeeb and we see how this name begins to impact us, but also the divine essence of it. So Al-Mujeeb means the capacity to become attentive and to listen, because praying to Allah means inviting that divine light into darkness. It brings that connotation of this divine light coming into just a world of darkness, a mind of darkness, wherever we might be, and we're seeking Allah, that response coming like that ray of light. And that light shows us the answers as well, the answers of present, the answers of past, but this asking and this praying on our part It's what makes us into what we must become in order to get closer to Allah. Sometimes we have the sense of shame associated with asking, associated with being able to be on our knees and just ask for something when we don't have, or if we're at the end of our limbs. This name actually lifts that up, that it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask from your creator who has created, from your creator who has provided, because in this case, Allah is Al-Mujeeb. And with all of the names, each and every one of the names, Allah is not just these in a moment. Allah is all of these and many more that we may not know, all of these and many more simultaneously. So when we call upon Allah, it's not that, oh, this is right now I'm going to get in touch with Allah, and Allah's only Ar-Rahman right now, or Allah's only Ar-Rahim, or any of the other names right now. Allah is all these things all together at the same time. And so when we call upon Allah, Allah in Al-Mujib responds to us in this holistic, caring response. And so when we look at this name, we see that this name Al-Mujib is not only open to questions and requests, but wants them to come, because that shows that you have a connection to this person, that shows that or not this person, to this divine creator, and then you have a connection there. And with Al-Mujib, Allah hears each and every call. Allah knows all the needs of all of that, the universe and the creation. And when that creation reaches back out, Allah gives from that infinite bounty. And so, like I mentioned, asking for help is not a small task at all. It really requires us to humble ourselves, but it also does help humble ourselves and help humble the ego. It helps us realize that, hey, we are just humans. It's okay to ask. And especially with Allah, when we struggle to say, I'm going to ask something from Allah, it comes from that position of ego, or things that I can do it myself. And oftentimes we find that even we have our limits. As humans, it's natural. We're in a limited world. We're in a limited faculty and limited bodies. There's only so much that we can do. And so when we ask Allah, it helps us hone in that ego, help us calm it, help us polish it, because we do know truly who does provide. And so we own up to our as we get through this name, we own up to our ignorance in the face of the divine. And as we do that, it's a major step. It's a major step, because to know that we do not know is the beginning of true knowledge. When we are accepting of the fact that, hey, I'm not able to do something, I'm not able to do XYZ, or hey, I don't know. That is the beginning of true knowledge. And that's the beginning of that true faith and relationship with Allah, when you realize that you have your limits, and then Allah is there for everything else and even more. And so when we carry Al-Mujib, when we keep this name in mind, we're more attentive, we're more in tune with ourselves, as well as to the world around us. And that Allah shows us not just the answers in a email or a text message that we get and it says like, hey, here's the answer to your prayer, but we begin to see the world with just a completely different set of eyes, in the sense that those eyes are open to seeing answers every single place, in every single thing. And we see Allah working in all these different spheres. And so that answer comes a lot more readily to us in different ways, shape, or form, as opposed to just what we might be thinking, that if I pray to Allah, Allah is going to respond back with a message, and it's just going to answer my prayer. We heighten our awareness, so we find that answer that might already be in and around the world ourselves. And so the Quran lifts up this, that if my servants ask about me, tell them I am near, and I respond to the call of the caller, and call for this call for us in the sense that when we go to Allah, when we call upon Allah, that it is something that is not one that is a complete far off call. It is something that is to the most near, to the most close, to the most subtle. And so when we think about this name, I want us to think about all of the other names, that how we think about Allah is we think about not just one divine attribute as we maybe discuss and we go through three, but we think of all these names operating together, all in sync, and that these are all eternal entity and all in eternal qualities of Allah. And so when we think about this name, we think about how we are close to Allah, but also how Allah is there for us when we sometimes may not put Allah with us, or we may not think Allah to be with us. Allah is there. And we close out today with Al-Wasi. Al-Wasi is the all-embracing, the endless, the all-reaching. Allah embraces all of the beings, all of the creation, and all things. And Al-Wasi manifests greatness, power, just this open-handedness and showing Allah's generosity and all-encompassing presence. It has these connotations there, and its root comes from this meanings of wide, has these meanings of being well off, containing, holding, comprehending, including, and being large, just expansive. And so the one who can hold everything and the one who makes space for everything is Al-Wasi. Al-Wasi widens that which might be narrow or limited. We sometimes think that in our sense of in our personal lives, in our finances, in our social spheres, in our professional lives, that Allah makes new paths. Allah makes space for new paths. And Al-Wasi helps expand that which has maybe become contracted, but also the one who holds all of this together, the one who brings all of this together. And this name reflects the kindness and the mercy over and around everything. And when we let this quality grow in us, this quality of Al-Wasi, it means to develop the capacity to hold and embrace everything that comes to us in whatever shape or form. We become more equipped to take in all the signs around us. And this name is meant to give you strength. This name is meant to give you strength to grow beyond any doubts that we might have. And not just that, not just to grow, but to, with every other name, to transform. This name is to transform into a source of strength. And because we know that when we doubt ourselves, it's a form of energy that really brings us down. So this doubt is one that this name helps to erode. This name helps to erode that doubt and instead bring about transformation. And so Al-Wasi helps us relinquish the bad, helps us relinquish those limiting habits and thoughts that we might do. And Allah is called Wasi al-Rahmah, rich in mercy, and Wasi al-Adl, infinite in justice. So you see how this name relates to other names, that when Allah is called Wasi al-Alim, that just infinite, all-knowing, just is that and all that. And so it couples with these names to show us just how expansive Allah is. And when we're feeling overwhelmed, this is a name that fosters healing. This is a name that is helpful to us, especially in difficulty, in oppression, in depression, in any of the states that we may feel lowered in any of the states we may feel constricted in. We feel a divine embrace. We feel a divine majesty that helps us when we're feeling overwhelmed. You think of the embrace of a loving partner or spouse or parent or child that just comes when you are just overwhelmed, when you're overcome with some kind of grief, loss, or anything it may be, and there's just an overwhelming embrace that is there. This is that feeling of helping, because it's not we are still feeling overwhelmed, but now we feel that sense of overwhelmingness has transcended, and this divine hug, this divine holder, embracer is taking that on for us. And so Al-Wasi opens gently, opens the gentle gates of connection that we have with Allah. Is that we don't find Allah maybe in our successes, in different times when we may be ignorant of Allah, but in those times where we might be really at the lowest of the low, Allah comes in and embraces us, and we find that connection. And so even at that moment, we might have forgotten Allah. Allah reminds us that Allah has always been there. And so it carries this endless kindness and quality of forgiveness, and it gives us the capacity not just to be receptive of this divine embrace, but to also open our arms, in times of constriction, and to those who have brought about those difficulties and constrictions. And so we don't just open our arms to ourselves, but with this name, when we know what Allah is capable of, when we know what Allah does in embracing us in those most tender and difficult moments, our arms then open up as well to the people we love, to the people who we say we don't love. And we see the world not just like this, but we see the world like this in terms of open arms, just as Allah does. And we embrace it as it comes. So inshallah, Allah gives us the strength to incorporate each of these attributes of loving embrace, of giving of lending an ear, a response to someone, and giving a sense of watchfulness, a sense of mindfulness to each of us. Because when we're mindful, when we are observant, and when we are hearing, when we are responding, and when we are then embracing, we not just are better humans to the world here, but we are then more equipped and more understanding of our Creator. Inshallah, these names help us to incorporate that aspect. And we close out today, as always, with the dhikr of these names. And so we begin here with the recitation of these names, inshallah. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله 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 الرقيب 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 يا رقيب 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله 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 المجيب 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 يا مجيب 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله 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 الواسع 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 يا واسع 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله 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 الله. So, sisters, brothers, and everyone joining the space, please remember that these names are not just a one-off attribute of Allah. These are all names that operate together and names that above and beyond cause healing. They are for healing. They are a divine healing that is not just for us and our relationship with Allah, but for ourselves and our relationships with ourselves, and healing for us and the world around us. So may we use these names as a form of healing and a form of growth and a form of transformation. Inshallah, until tomorrow, we'll see y'all then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.